Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in to today's show. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation magazine. We've got an awesome show tonight. Our guest is Judy Ryan, CEO of Lifework Systems. She's a coach, author, jack of all trades. And we've got a great discussion that we have in store for you. So we hope you stay in and listen, because I think you'll be able to take a knowledge nugget and apply to your business and daily activities. So with that said, let's dive right into it. Judy, tell us about yourself, where you're from, etc.
Well, thanks, first of all, for having me on this show. I'm really grateful to be here. And I also feel some kindred spirit with you, David, because my father and some of my cousins and uncles all ran construction companies, and my father had a roofing business. So I kind of know what some of those headaches and opportunities are in that industry. I know it's not the whole of what you're doing, but I actually love working with organizations to help the people within the organization to fully engage with the work that they're doing, to take control of their relationships, of their productivity, of their engagement level, of even their plan of how they're going to go about growth and change. And so that's what I do. And I really, really love it because there's always a big need for it. And once people recognize that need and then learn the system, it's really incredible to see how many improvements can happen and how much people don't even recognize how much they're suffering beforehand. They're suffering because they don't really know how to handle some of those things, and they think they're supposed to know how to handle them. So mostly my work is really all about any company that's concerned with employee performance or healthy workplace culture. And a lot of those things are really being impacted right now. I know because of the pandemic, that's on everybody's mind, but really these things have been going on for a long time outside of that. It's just right in our faces right now because of the stress of the situation. Stress has always been a test for how well people and their teams will perform. And that'll be before the pandemic, now during the pandemic, and even after the pandemic is over with, people are going to still have stress. And so what's really important for business leaders in particular is, are my people engaged? Are they resilient? Resilient meaning, can they bounce back no matter what's coming at them? Are they agile enough to shift and change as things cause them to have to do so? So even before this epidemic, we've had businesses having to change because of just the nature of business itself and how quickly things are changing. So in the United States, there's been a really high, I don't know if everybody knows this, but there's really high disengagement in most companies year after year after year. David, I don't know if you know that or not, but it's about 71% of people that are.
Listen, I came from Nielsen, so I was with a big corporation. I went out on my own, and then I had grew my company, 14 employees, and grew very fast. And then when the economy fell off the cliff, we downsized and figured out things. And now I do things with 5 people. We're a very tight-knit little group. We know what everybody's aspects are, but talking to people over the last couple of months during the shutdown, I know that a lot of people have been furloughed and laid off, and some will come back, some won't. A lot of company, just internally, things are going to change. How many people are going to come back? Some people are going to be wearing multiple hats and trying to figure out, am I going to keep my people working out of the house? Am I going to bring them into the office? So I want them out in the field. I think a lot of organizations are going to go through major changes. And you want to keep the best people with you, but also they're all going to have to do more with less. And
yes. And even sometimes your best people aren't as expanded in their potential as they could be, but certainly a lot of those that are sort of shut down are really in need of expanding their potential. So it's not that big of a jump to get people engaged. It's just that you have to start dismantling some things that are in the way right now. And that's kind of new to a lot of people. So what happens is that 20-80 rule where you have 20% of the team doing the heavy lifting. And so that's always been, and those are the folks that are going to be retained. but there's going to be more expected of more people in a smaller group. So yes, having that full engagement is everything. Having people that can get hit with something out of the blue and come back from it is everything. And so for us, what that means is, how do you create the conditions and conversations where people are consistently those things that I mentioned: resilient, agile, able to stay engaged, choose to be engaged, that sort of thing. So for us, it's about educating people, especially leaders, on what they don't even know that they don't know. Because if I use the word culture, culture is just like the word parenting. You could have 20 different people in the room, all with a different idea of what it's supposed to look like. And the culture model that we use is not yet fully mainstream. All the top companies, all of the most progressive and successful companies are using that kind of culture that I'm talking about that we have, or are moving toward it. An agile, compatible culture, a culture where people, the most important priority is that they become personally responsible. How do you do that? How do you do that when people are used to being told what to do, being incentivized to do it, being shamed or praised to do it, and sometimes just somebody else taking over for them because they're not showing up? So when we have all that going on, how do we have fully engaged people? And that's really what we do, is we bring in something that many people have never even heard of or have really considered, which is a responsibility-based culture model.
My motto is, the day I stop learning is the day I stop doing something else. So,
Oh, gosh.
I learn something new every day, whether it's dealing with a client, or dealing with one of my cohorts, or dealing with my wife, or dealing with my dog, whatever it might be. You know, communication is key. But coming out of the pandemic, a lot of companies are going to go through. Some might just stay to the status quo. Others are going to be aggressive on trying to figure out the best way to operate their organizations internally. And you're only as good as your people, period.
Well, that's absolutely true. And for whatever reason, whatever's happened in your life, David, you're an engaged person. You're a lifelong learner. You just said, I really like to keep learning. There's a lot of people that want to be like you, but they haven't been given the right set of guidance and support in order to become that. I really believe that to be way more true than not. You will have times when you have employees where you just really recognize they're not rising, but a lot of times it's a matter of giving them the right conditions for them to rise. And one of my favorite things that I love to hear from people is the saying, I never thought that person would turn around, or I can't believe what we're getting out of that person right now. Because we're so unaware that the conditions we're creating have actually caused people to shut down. Like, we don't know that we're setting things up for them to kind of fail or sort of fail. So in fact, when you said, I like to learn, one of my favorite quotes this year is about change blindness. And it's a quote that says, we have a problem with change blindness, because what's happening is people are either seeing new information, but not wanting to go out of their way for it, or they see new information and they don't like to consider that what they've been doing or thinking is outdated. And those two things alone keep people stuck. So your hunger and your willingness to learn and grow is not something that everybody's comfortable or willing to do easily until they see a painted picture of something that they're willing to try, because they hadn't heard. It's not a same old again, and it starts to make sense.
I was a Dale Carnegie guy, so I went into the Dale Carnegie way back when, and probably one of the best things that I ever did. I wasn't very excited to go. My old Corp Nielsen said, "Hey, you should go take the class. We want you to be a leader." And I was kind of tough on my people, so I went in there. And one of the greatest things, I became humble. But the coolest thing about Dale Carnegie was you were in there with a room of all sorts of types of people, and watching people who never ever couldn't speak in front of people, or they weren't able to comprehend if a task was given to them, they were worried about failing. And Dale Carnegie taught me what's the worst that can happen and what's the best that can happen. So you actually know where you stand. But watching a person in the beginning of the class who couldn't, like, dreadful shaking to get up and just say a couple of sentences in front of a group, and then through the classes, by the end of the course, it was like no big deal. And talking about stuff that you don't have to be nervous about. And
I love it that you're using that example, because one of the things we do with our culture change process is people go through and they learn new concepts and tools, but then they have to come together in a group, and the group has to take turns leading a group. And so that exact dynamic occurs, but everybody's supported in how do we encourage this person who's taking the leadership role so that they can get out of their own box of I'm only a follower. And now today I'm the leader and people are there to support and encourage me. And so everybody learns that agility of sometimes I do need to speak up and be the leader. You also said that when you first went into that, you had to learn humility because you were hard on people. I think that the best leader is a powerful, firm leader, but humble enough to say, I want to develop you into a leader too. That's where I would say the humility is really needed. Not so much that some of the managers I see that rule by intimidation need to be humbled exactly. They just need to realize they're even more powerful when they can create other leaders. We see it in organizations where sometimes there's one on the outside and he wants to hold on to that intimidation. And yet he starts seeing the effects on the other teams and says, maybe I should look at this.
I think a lot of leaders are scared about people, taking their jobs. The best thing that you can do as a leader or a CEO is to build your team up to be able to replace yourself, because that's the only way that your company's going to grow down the road. And the more that they know about all the different things that go on internally in your organization, the better off you are. I'm a lacrosse coach at the high school level. I've done rec. I've done it all when my kid was growing up, but now I do high school. And I just tell people, look, you're gonna play as you practice, and everything that you do, I've done 20 times over, and I've made mistakes. You learn from your mistakes. I'd rather you fail, pick yourself up, learn from it, so you don't do it again. And you got to stay positive, but you have to be humble enough to know that, hey, I'm trying to tell you that you can improve, but you got to practice at it too. It's not going to come overnight.
Well, you're exactly right. You're talking about being a firm leader, but also being one that develops other people. I mean, really and truly, like you said earlier in the sentences, you said people are afraid they're going to lose their position. Well, the reality of it is any leader who is worried about saving their own position is already in a bad place, because they're very transactional. It's all about me protecting me. One of the things I love about our culture model is not only does it deeply honor individuals, it teaches side by side with freedom and individuals being important. It teaches the importance of really being intentional about what you're going to cause other people and being aware of it. It's called social interest. Social interest is when I'm thinking about what I'm doing and how it's going to affect you. Like we talk about this sometimes in a social way. Like I remember one time seeing a little 5-year-old boy say to his mom, why can't we park in this first spot at the grocery store where, it's the handicap spot? And she said, well, see that $500, we'll have to get a ticket and pay $500. I said, a real good leader would say, what's so cool about our community, son? We watch out for each other. We make sure that people that can't walk well can get into the store easily. Isn't it great that we're that kind of community? And so what happens is, I remember seeing an experiment like that where they put an actual handicap picture on the sign, and people that would pull in to just park there would see that face and somebody saying, thank you for saving this for me. And they'd pull right back out. And the minute they take that sign down, people wouldn't give a darn because they lost sight of the other person and what they were causing them. So social interest in a company is huge. It turns even a leader who is weak-egoed enough to be all protective of him or herself and makes them into somebody that wants people to succeed. And that's just contagious and beautiful.
So our sector, we're in the commercial construction sector. So you've got retailers, hoteliers, multifamily, restaurants, shopping center developers, architects, engineers, contractors, vendor suppliers, all different sizes companies, public, private, big, small. So with companies that are in this sector and they're trying to come out of the pandemic, figure out the best way that they can run their operations, who they're going to bring back, how they're going to streamline, how they're going to get things done. If a company wanted to reach out to you and with your expertise, how would they go about it and what could they expect?
Well, I would say if I were a company, even considering how do I get full engagement out of my people? Because right now I need it more than I've ever needed it, right? So I would be saying to them, take the time to go and look and see what your practices are and whether you've got all your practices in place. I remember years ago taking a marketing survey and I thought, oh my God, I don't have half the things in place that I'm supposed to have in place, to do marketing. Well, the same is true for most companies around their culture practices. They don't know what they have in place and don't have in place and what they should have in place. And so I would recommend that you go and you do an assessment that we have that's free that allows you to start recognizing, do I have these practices in place? Am I going through these kind of challenges? Do I want these kinds of leadership development skills in my people? And then that's something that you can do with little time, no money, and get back information about your organization. What's the score of your culture? Is it healthy? What are the areas you should focus on first? What are some of the suggested things you can do without ever even hiring anybody, just to have a baseline understanding? It's kind of like we walk around with business sometimes as if we've never, a person never going and getting blood work done. It's just not a good way to operate. You don't really know what's going on. So that would be the first thing that I would tell people in terms of me understanding them and them understanding what kinds of things they should have in place around culture. And culture is one of those things, putting time into helping people be emotionally and socially intelligent feels a little bit like slowing down to speed up. But you don't even have to slow down very long or very much to see the advancements that come from people becoming more self-aware and self-managing and more aware of their dynamics so that they can manage relationships. I mean, even simple things like we have companies where they don't gossip anymore. Like they rarely gossip because they have various guidelines in place that help them to do something other than gossip and to make commitments to not gossip. And how do they do healthy venting? And how do they have tools so that when they do want to go to each other, they can do that safely and not worry about it blowing up in their face? And so that's why it really is true. If they know better, they would do better. So I would just suggest that people kind of get a read on where they are and be willing to look at the models that are out there, including the kind like we're providing, which is value-based, purpose-based, personally responsible. That's a winning ticket. We have a client right now. It's a big, huge physician-owned healthcare IT company. And they keep sending me the emails saying how good they're doing because they paid their dues. They have to literally create new things on the fly right now. And they're able to do it because they've got such solid teamwork and they're not wasting their energy on gossiping and complaining and being against each other. It's really incredible to see what can happen under those conditions.
A lot of the companies that are coming out of the pandemic that are starting to, well, I saw one guy was getting on his plane. He goes, well, let's see how this goes. Where he was flying from Houston to someplace, I think Mobile, Alabama. But gradually, they're all going to come back and they're going to start working. And every company can improve internally. I don't care if you're big, small, even my little firm. Even though we're all remote and so forth, we've all kind of learned how to get along and get things done. But we know what we know what our silos are and what we need to get done. But there's a lot of bigger companies. Oh my God, they take so much time to get stuff done. It's just a big old meat grinder that's moving along really slow. If they could become much more efficient, they would be able to. You know, how many times I say, hey, let's send me a press release. Well, it's got to go through the marketing department, then legalese and this and that. I'm like, by the time you get it to us, someone else is going to already have the PR out there and beat you to the punch.
That's when you have too many cultures of control in place and not enough people that feel confident enough to take initiative and take something forward. And that's really why everything gets so bogged down. I mean, we can even see it politically right now. There's not a system where everybody's.
Don't get me started.
Oh, I know.
Don't get me started.
It's the interesting thing about businesses is a lot of companies still want to hold with this idea that, emotional intelligence and culture are nice to haves, but they're really need to haves. When you have a culture problem, it can take you down, just like when your car has an engine problem and the engine light comes on. We can't say we don't have time, and really right now with this pandemic, it's actually an ideal time for companies to take time to learn what is this culture system and how do you implement it. One of my clients told me, I met you at a keynote. I did your 18-month culture change implementation. We love it. They still use it. He said, but I never hear anybody else talking about an implementation. That's what a lot of companies are also struggling with. They're reading about these great culture models that should be happening, but they don't know where to get started and how to do it. So part of it is, I don't believe that most leaders don't care. I just don't think they either have the information or have the process for what to do. So that's why I love what I do. I've done it for over 30 years, and this model is now coming into its own. So I'm super excited.
You know, my last podcast, they've all been about, well, what are you doing with the pandemic, and how are you going to come out, and how are you going to handle this or that? The reason why, after we spoke on our conference call, that I wanted you on here was that everybody out there that's listening, if you're a business owner, whether you're private, public, or private, this is an opportunity for you, not to worry about how you're going to get the sneeze guards up, or you know, are we going to be able to get our stores open on time that we're putting the pipeline that maybe put on hold and so forth. Here's an opportunity to invest into your personnel that you're going to come out with the pandemic with. And coming into, it's going to be kind of a new business world out there, you know, until they find a vaccine or a remedy, therapeutic remedy, things are going to change, and you're going to have to learn to adapt, and you're going to have to be flexible. And I think Judy has an unbelievable array of courses, guidelines, knowledge that she could actually offer to your company to help you get through this post-pandemic, build your team, maintain them, and not lose them. The worst thing that you can do is train someone and have them leave, and they got to start at scratch once again.
Right.
And that's just a waste of dollars and time and efficiency.
And I would even go a little bit further, David, and say we've had years of 70% or greater disengagement. It's always been time to do it, but most of us have not put the time in on working on the business. We get so caught up in the day-to-day working in the business. We don't have the excuse of that right now. We can't go to the football games. We can't go to the hockey games or whatever, you know. Put your time in now. And just to clarify, while we do have a lot of training, it's really more about how the whole team becomes owners of their own tasks and owners of the culture. And it's not laid on the shoulders of just the top people. We have people in companies where everybody from CEO to janitor are part and parcel of keeping the culture going and being part of it. And that is in itself very paradigm shifting, if you will. I know that's an old term, but it really is something that you don't have to say, oh, great, another burden on me, the manager or the owner or the top level. This is really something that everybody shares equally, and it's set up to be that way. And I can't explain it all in a short conversation, but it isn't your traditional, let's go away and do some training. It's really about integrating a whole lot of things together on a month-to-month basis until it becomes the way of doing things.
Construction doesn't change month to month. It's drywall, screws, floor, roofing, insulation, HVAC, security, doors, storefronts. That stuff doesn't change. What does change are the people that actually are getting things done. You know, whether you're, you know, the general contractor or the construction manager, dealing with the subs, dealing with making your deadlines. How am I going to get that done? And what I think Judy can offer to your firm is an opportunity to find out what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, how to improve that efficiency with your communication, your goals, and most importantly, developing your people so they know that, you know, they're just not an employee, that they have, that they know that they can have pride in, hey, you know, I'm in this too. You know, I'm one of the team members and so forth. And that down the road, they might be the next CEO. Who knows?
Yeah.
As
People
I
want to
said,
know you care about them. They want to know that you want to hear what they have to say. And then they're way more willing to listen to what you have to say to them and to do what, you know, what will make you happy and what will make the customers happy. So it's just we just don't even realize how just some things that we've been doing over and over again are just, it's time for them to go. And once those go, people are free to become really amazing people, especially those that have been really, you know, just doing the bare minimum. There's a lot of people in mediocrity. Over 50% of workforces nationally are about 55% are mediocre. They're doing C-. They're there for the paycheck. Even that's a really expensive thing. Add that to the 16% that are costing you money by, you know, coming to work drunk or high or late or underperforming to a terrible degree. That's a really big combined amount of money you're losing. So if you can imagine, you know, everybody showing up.
Yeah, as a coach, when you're in rec, everybody plays. When you get to high school level, only the best players play. And all the time is the parents would come to me, why isn't my son playing? Well, He hasn't he has been practicing. He has been throwing the wall enough. And when he does that, we will give him the chance. But at this point, my job is to put goals in the net and W's on the scoreboard.
Even sports teams, if you really see some of the better performers, some of it's natural talent, but a lot of it's they happen to get excellence in coaching, excellence in support, excellence in a lot of different areas that all created that excellence in the performance. Well, that's what's missing with workplace. It's not that people don't have a heart for what they're doing. They just haven't been given the right support for what they're doing. And I don't mean their construction support. You know, construction is kind of a good metaphor because even in construction, you have phases for things and you have to have a lot of cross functionality. And the same is really true for our business. And those things, if everybody's waiting around for the boss to tell everybody what to do, that's not a good construction site, right? And so in a fully engaged workforce, people are leaping to be accountable for what's theirs to do. They're not feeling held back. They're not feeling unable anymore. And I just don't think people realize when this work was done in a prison where repeat reincarceration is the same as like the disengagement in the United States has been around 71%. That's what it is for repeat reincarceration in prisons. It's around 70%. When we used our model in a prison in Florida, it went down to 4%. And that's what it's like in companies. When you change your workplace culture and you get it right, the change is so phenomenal that it's hard for people to even believe it until they see it. So that's really, we've settled a lot more for mediocrity than we even know.
So what we're going to do, Coffee Talk fans out there, is that if you're interested in having Judy actually maybe do a little analyzation of your firm, we're going to put together a survey for you. And if you're interested in pursuing trying to improve your internal workings of your firm as you come out of the pandemic, how can they get in touch with you, Judy?
They can go on my website at Lifework Systems. Systems is the only part of the title that is plural, so it's lifeworksystems.com. And there's lots of pages where there's videos, but there's also lots of pages where there's take our survey. And that's the free survey that I mentioned earlier. We do other surveys too that are around your whole company's engagement, but this is really for you, the business leader or owner or managers at the top, just one person to kind of get a read on, is our culture of practice, are our culture practices healthy? Do we have everything in place we need? Are we addressing our challenges? What's a priority for us to be looking at? And it just gives you a good read on all of that.
We have our e-digest on there. We're going to put this podcast on Wednesday's e-digest that goes out. And my plan would be to put that survey link on there for those of you that are going to receive our e-blast, and hopefully that you'll take a look at it. I urge you to be inquisitive, take a look-see, and take the survey. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And like I said, the day that you stop learning, go do something else. I'm going to take the survey, even though I've got a small firm, but there are some big ones out there that probably could use this. It might be eye-opening after you take it. And then if you're interested in pursuing, continue the education or going through the works that Judy offers in her curriculum, you can contact her directly and go from there. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
I actually just want to say I'm really grateful. I know that a lot of the industries that you're serving right now, David, they're all, they're necessary businesses. And so there's a lot of work to do without necessarily the usual support systems around them. So I just applaud the people that are listening, and I'm grateful that I was able to be on the show and hopefully offer a little bit of hope to them and also get to know you better, David. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Like I said, we had a great talk, and that's why I had you on there. For those of you that aren't familiar with our magazine, you can go to ccr-mag.com. We would love to have you be a subscriber. We'll be having this podcast put on our Wednesday e-digest. We'll also have the survey link on there as well. And if you want to get into contact with Judy, I'm sure she has contact info up on her website and so forth. So with that said, we're coming out of the pandemic. Some of the areas, it's getting the curve's going down. Still got to wash your hands, social distance, wear the mask if you need to. Stay positive. Sun's coming out, summer. We're going to get through this all together. And hopefully, if you use Judy, you're going to be that much better and positive down the road. And prosperity is what it's all about. So thank you once again, Judy, for your time. Really appreciate it because I know you're a busy lady. Thank you for all for signing in. And we look forward to you seeing next time on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. And have a great evening. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you, David.
We'll talk to you later. All right.